I wasn't around when all of that was happening. I know lots of guys, obviously, through my contacts now that were, and there was a lot of bad blood between some of the racers, and it just, I think, spilled over. There were allegations that people were stealing money from the gate fees for the people that came in to watch the races, and from what I understand, there was an investigation into that, and they may have found that that was, you know, a truth, and so in 1984, at the end of the year, they said that's it. There's no more racing at Langley Speedway, and they shut it down.
And there wasn't any particular reason then, just all different sorts of reasons from all different kind of clubs. Now, I heard a little rumor, you can justify it or not, is I understand that the horse people of Langley have tried to make it difficult for Langley Speedway to exist again, and that their big vote is not to open Langley Speedway again, or any automotive speedway around, you know, the horses, because of whatever reasons. A lot of people say it's noise, and I just don't think it's fair that they can have a say, and I think that everybody should play in the sandbox together fairly, and everybody should have the same opportunity. Do you think it's a really noisy thing, that it does affect the horses of Langley or the people that, or is it something that just maybe once in a while? Because isn't anything you're going to be doing every day?
No, and I don't think it's fair to say that it is the equestrian people who either even had anything to do with having the track shut down, or even the idea that they may be involved in some type of groundswell of negative, you know, whether it's lobbying or whatever against what we're trying to do as far as restoring the track goes. I want to get that on the records now. I don't think that they're necessarily a group of people that are against anything that we're trying to do. As a matter of fact, because we almost always during our events have somebody up at the gate to make sure that there's no interaction between a car and a horse, because their path does cross right over the entrance to the track.
Which is that, where? Campbell Valley Park?
Campbell Valley Park, which
Yes.
is a 2,500 acre park, by the way, and which is the largest, I think, park in the Lower Mainland.
And they use the track for horse shows too, as well.
They once a year use it on one of the weekends, and they have dressage happening down in the center field of the oval, and now that we've cleared large sections of the berry bushes off of the old grandstand seating area, apparently they're quite happy, because now they have somewhere where their spectators can sit and watch the activity in the bowl as well.
So you're working together as a partnership to make it all work for everybody. That's really nice to hear,
yeah.
Being a horse person and a car person myself.
Yeah, but as far as the noise aspect of it goes, I mean, if you go to 208th and 42nd Avenue, right next to the what is now known as the George Preston Recreational Center, used to be called the Langley Civic Center or whatever, there is a small area there where they do the horse rodeo, and I think it's called Little Britches or whatever
Langley
it is.
Riders
Association. And if you look at just about any given weekend, there'll be a whole bunch of people down there with their horses right up against the fence, with the cars roaring up and down 208th. I mean, if you use the word roaring, but sometimes you get the odd car that is quite loud. And I've never seen myself any incidents where, you know, maybe a horse got spooked and somebody got thrown or whatever the case may be. And I know that that's a different world than the people that go to spend time quiet down in the park and wandering through the trails. But, you know, for the car community, the greater car community, and especially the people that really love Langley Speedway for what it was and what it is, they can't get over the idea that the equestrians have over 14 kilometers of trails that they have available to them, and there's taxpayers' money and effort goes into maintaining those trails through the park system, and yet here, you know, large part of the Lower Mainland's population, those interested in motorsports, can't even use a quarter mile. So,
like I said, it's a little unfair.
Yeah, really. And, you know, it's funny because, again, going back to the equestrians, the people that we interact with and a lot of them that we talk to, a lot of them are interested in NASCAR. A lot of them. A lot of them think racing is actually pretty cool. And that probably flies in the face of some of the folks that come from the old school philosophy that cars and horses don't mix. But I mean, a blending of society is really what Canada is about. And so when we have cars and horses and, you know, people from other countries coming together and all mixing together, and we always seem to be able to find a way to blend everything together that way. Why is it that out of a 2,500 acre park, this little quarter-mile track can't put people back
And
down
how
to
often
the
you'd
track?
be using it? Once a month?
Yeah,
Or just on
you
the
know,
weekends? It's not something that'd be 24/7, right?
towards the end of the track's history, I think they had maybe 12 or 14 events through the season of racing, and then all the rest of the year it's
And season could be
perfectly
just
quiet.
up to October too, doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
mean
September,
January to December.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Murray, what makes Murray Jones wake up and say, I need to save this speedway? What did it do for you personally, and how did you come about to do this?
When I was 5 years old in Victoria, my dad and my mom were involved with a stock car team there, Jim Codwell, number 28. And I remember having a little sailor's cap like Gilligan. And the first time I ever wore that hat to the track, my guy, Jim Codwell, won the race. And so that was my lucky hat. And then at some point, and mind you now, I'm talking about when I was 4 and 5 years old, and I still remember this. And I went down after all the other cars were gone and everybody else was gone, and my uncle put me on his lap and he let me hold the steering wheel, and we went around the track at a slow pace. But I never, ever gave that memory up or will ever forget it, because that was just the biggest thrill for me to be able to go around that track in that 57 Ford, engine roaring even though we were going slow, and just, you know, I'm sure I must have had a grin bigger than my face, because again, I'll never forget it. So through the years, obviously, I maintained a really healthy love of motorsports and wound up meeting a lot of famous guys when I lived in Arizona for a time. And so I was only about 15 minutes away from the Phoenix International Raceway down there, and met a lot of the guys towards the end of the races or whatever, Mario Andretti and Al Unser, and those guys used to go to the Phoenix International Raceway and race the Indy cars and the Copper World Classic this was the early 80s, and so sprint car drivers and all types of guys, and Manzanita Speedway, the dirt track, was just up the road, so we go there. And again, my time spent watching races in Victoria, and I've always been a bit of a hot rodder because of it, and was in a couple of custom car clubs and stuff like that. But when I had an opportunity in 1982 to go to Phoenix International Raceway and watch the Winston West race, where Victoria native Roy Smith, he came in third in the race, but he clinched the championship for the season at that race.
With points.
For points. He was the champion again. I think it was his fourth one or third one, and Canadian guy, and my dad knew who he was and I knew who he was, so we got to go down to the pits after the races and talk to Roy. And Roy was the greatest guy. He was so personable. He spent more time talking to us than most guys probably would have, especially because we knew who he was and we're from the same area, Victoria, and